Hey Capricorns, how y'all doing? Welcome. We're going to be doing your one overview reading here. So your meditation was short and sweet. Salvador Dali. I saw Salvador Dali. Does anyone know that Salvador Dali painting where it's a desert and it's the image of the clock that's melting? That's what I saw in your meditation. And I heard, like, from the Capricorn collective, I heard, you know what's funny? When I stopped deciding how I wanted things to go, like down to a fine point in detail, when I stopped deciding beforehand how things were going to go, they turned out better than I ever could have imagined on my own. You know, the key phrase here I'm feeling is expectations or limitations. And the whole Salvador Dali thing as well, it's the clock aspect of it too, timing, deciding, being in a certain sense of control. Of course, the illusion is that we have any control at all, which we don't. What we do, though, have is facility around the choices that we make on a moment-to-moment basis, right? And when I think about that image in your meditation of the Salvador Dali, I associate Capricorns with a certain sense of appreciation for the material world, how, organization, details, getting things done in a timely manner, all of that good stuff. But Salvador Dali, I feel like part of his expertise was in, pushing the boundaries of, a warped perspective and going, well, what if it was like this? What if we looked at it through a different lens? What if we, merged two different timelines and then saw what was in between those? Maybe that's where the gold is. Maybe there is a way that exists outside of your perspective, your limited vision, right? And I say limited in terms of you're in a human experience, not that you don't have the capability as an intuitive and spiritual being to see in all directions of time and spaces. Of course you do, right? But I mean, as you are having a human experience, right? Part of that human experience is understanding that we can only see what we can see. We can only know what we can know, right? Or else why are we here? That's part of it, is the not knowing. And the question is, what is worth doing regardless of how it works out? Regardless of the result, what is worth doing anyway, right? What risk is worth, any reward? The genius in that Salvador Dali painting was that you were able to view time and that image and whatever else came to mind when viewing it from a different perspective, right? Y'all? The Crow, hello, for your one overview. And I'm really obsessed with this because The Crow's about magic and perspective and balance and equilibrium and speaking up and change. So I'm really obsessed with this. Remember what I just said about, things possibly, when I stopped trying to imagine how things would be or plan for things to be a certain way, they ended up so much better than I ever could have imagined because expectations are limitations, right? The Crow very much embodies that energy, right? When the Crow shows up, there's going to be a lot of signs and synchronicities and, happy stances. I call them happy stances because the things that kind of like, seem to, it's kind of like happy accident meets with happenstance, where it's like, oh my God, but let me tell you something. When all of those signs and symbols are afoot, right? It acts as this beautiful source of upliftment and support because you just feel like you are being divinely supported, like the universe, by the universe, where there's just this sense of, order and purpose to things, where you just know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are exactly where you're meant to be from a soul perspective. I want you to think about this. Have there ever been times in your life, and you're a human being, so likely so, where you just felt like you took a left turn somewhere? Like maybe you were on the wrong, like you took a left turn. I feel a discomforted feeling inside of myself. I feel a resistance. I feel a deep unhappiness. I feel an edge that is so deep and inherent, and maybe I can't even point to a reason why, but I feel like I'm not exactly where I'm meant to be. It's usually because choices were made from fear getting to that point, as opposed to choices made from love. This is saying that you are right on track, right? Crow is about, yes, you're right on track. This also equates to the high priestess energy melded with the magician energy, right? Oh, Salvador Dali, realness with a multi-clock. I really like it. The High Priestess is about connecting with your intuition and seeing what is unseen, right? Delving into those inner depths, right? And manifesting from a place of inner knowing. The Magician is about manifesting. Capricorn, this is so auspicious for your year ahead. I love it. I'm seeing the number 5, which is the number of change, but I do feel like 5 is going to be a very pertinent, 5 might show up for you this year in some very pronounced ways that you might notice. Oh, by the way, happy birthday season. I almost forgot. Happy birthday season coming up here in January. You know, this is really interesting. So we have the Hierophant here, which is Taurus energy. Here's why I'm really obsessed with this. So Taurus energy, the Hierophant, is very much about orderly ways of thinking and doing things, right? There's a certain system to things. And this is kind of what I was picking up on your meditation too, a certain way of going about things, right? That was, and I don't mean this in like a, excuse me, like a shady way, but sometimes this can be a lack of coloring outside of the lines. We color inside the lines over here at Hierafantville. Right? And Salvador Dali was so outside of the lines and pushing that point of perspective and right, and the magic that happened within that. So I feel like there's an aspect here of, you know, the key experience being willing to, you know, the Hierophant can be very comforting, right? In one hand, I feel like you are being asked to appreciate both sides of the Hierophant coin here with these 2 keys, okay? On one side, it can be very comforting because when the Hierophant appears, you know that at the end of the day, everything is as it should be. Going back to what I was feeling with the crow in your meditation. You are on your right path. Everything is as it should be, right? But the other key and the flipped perspective and the dual aspect, I feel like you're being asked to invite upon it with yourself. The one with the Hierophant is understanding too that sometimes and oftentimes the best things, the best inventions, the best songs, the best, you know, relationships come out of allowing yourself to color outside of the lines, doing things differently, even if it goes against what would be considered to be, you know, pragmatic or financially responsible or whatever have you. Okay. You know, polar bear energy as well is very much about endurance and family lines and ancestry, right? So there could be an aspect here of, you know, oh God, it's the number 5. Guys, did anyone else catch that? And they were like, girl, you were just talking about the number 5 and then you pulled the number 5 major arcana. Hello? Was just talking about the number 5. Thank you very much. And also looking at, you know, the way that your family has done things, the way that you've inherited, you know, what is your family's line about? How do they feel about, you know, having a lazy day at home? Is there guilt associated with that? What if you, you know, kind of re-examined your relationship to, that's just an example, something like that you inherited from your family, right? Or even how you see yourself when you look in the mirror. Is your self-worth based on your physical image or what's on the, like, what did you inherit that could come up for, you know, review, right? What is working for you that you inherited from your family, whether by observation or actual, you know, instruction? What is working and what is up for review, right? So now you have the 8 of Swords, which is kind of great in a way, because the 8 of Swords, traditionally speaking, is about a mental prison to which, you know, only you hold the key because you made the prison, right? But I'm really drawn, analysis paralysis, right? What I'm really drawn to is the fact that it's the mole here. The mole here has adapted to the darkness. It's adapted to its natural environment, right? Which means it doesn't go off of its sight or what is smart or what is, you know, the most pragmatic move. It goes off of what it's feeling, its senses. Talking about that with the crow, I do feel like you are moving from a place of sensory, again, to that Salvador Dali, right? Like sensory deprivation and sensory magic, really. Sensory magic, yeah. Wow, this is, okay. So we have the 7 of Swords here. So the 7 of Swords, traditional, again, coming from another hole in the ground. Look at that, earth sign. 7 of Swords, traditionally speaking, is self-sabotage or the thief in the middle of the daytime key. Now listen, what were we just talking about? Looking at things that you inherited from your family or that you thrust upon yourself, whatever have you, it didn't matter where it came from, right? But being aware of the source of it is definitely helpful. And going, I'm bringing this into the light of day, right? Everything that is, you know, everything is up for review. And there's a certain comfort and safety within that when the crow is present, because this also speaks of a truth that wants to come into the light for reassessment, and so that you can use it to your highest and best advantage. When we are a product of our past as opposed to a response to it, that can hold us back in a lot of different ways. So I feel like a lot is coming up for review and being brought into the light, and the relief that comes as a result of that is palpable. And I feel like you're being able to use what's there a little more directly, right? Like, let's back to the Salvador Dali. Let's say you're an artist, for example, okay? And you decide to engage in some, self-work, shadow work, introspection, observing yourself, tapping into your high priestess intuition. And you're looking at some of the aspects of yourself that have been more dormant or in the dark, or maybe even subconscious to you. And you decide to make art about that. Make art from that place. That is gold, honey. Because then you're tapping into a collective shadow in a way and going, hey, this is my shadow. This is my deepest, darkest pain. These are the parts of myself that I really don't like. Here they are in art form. And then so many people that are exposed to and have the gift of your art experience healing by proxy, because they're able to experience their own shadow side and find acceptance within that because of the art that you made, because of the pain that it took for you to create it. Whoa, I just got shivers. Oops. Two of Vessels, attraction. You got Two of Cups to clarify the Hierophant. We're talking about the two sides of the key, and then we have the two cups. Stop right now, but don't you dare. I love this so much. We have so anyway, traditionally Two of Cups, right quick, is very much about mirror work. It's about heart alignment. It's very much about love, romance, but also the love and romance that you have with yourself and all aspects of you, all of that good stuff. And this is like a mirror here, right? But again, I feel like this is speaking of the flip side of something and considering more than one perspective or angle, going about it a different way. And I'm really obsessed. I knew there was a reason that I was called to use that. This is a deck that I've never used on here before, but I felt very, very, very drawn to use it today. And I feel like the reason is part of this right here. It's like the Two of Cups. No, it is the Two of Cups, but we're going to put animal heads on their bodies, which is wild and wacky. They're half human, right? Half animal. There's something about that. Looking at the other side of something, incorporating something that is really outside of the box, coloring outside of the lines, and finding the magic and gold and solution and peace of mind and happiness and purpose and manifestation from that place of being willing to do things different and step outside of the lines. That is so amazing. Okay, Eight of Swords. Wow. A lot of healing that comes from that too, I feel like. Oh, I literally can't. I will. Y'all got Three of Bows. So this is Three of Wands and it says fulfillment. I want to point something out. Do you see these two snakes? What is this, the cautilus, I think? Wrapped around each other. And I was just talking about healing. Snakes represent legit healing. I'm obsessed with this. Three of Bows, fulfillment, Three of Wands. This is about, by the way, I have to mention this because I did just do a collective reading for one. And I was just talking about how the collective energy for one is the Three of Wands. And then it's showing up here in your reading. That's over on Patreon, by the way. I'm not going to post it here, but it's over on Patreon. Three of Wands. This is about happy movement forward. Happy movement forward. This is travel, manifestation, happy partnership, new relationship, art, right? This is you using everything that is inside of you, even the aspects that you don't particularly like, the shadow side of that coin. Remember, we just saw the two keys, the two cups, and then we got the two snakes. Okay? You're incorporating both sides of yourself. And yeah, we have definitely probably more than just two sides, but you are incorporating the light and the dark, right? Both sides of yourself, not just your best self, but your worst self. When those are allowed to merge and work together and have equal, weight, and you give visibility to both, oh my God, there is nothing you can't do. It's the shadow stuff that holds us back. It's the shadow stuff that we don't want to face that activates our fear and allows us to make fear-based choices. Integrate them. Give them both equal time and space together. Allow them to inform the other. And there's nothing you can't do. Wow. Whoa. Okay, Seven of Swords. In a day now. Ooh. Ooh, it's so good. Okay, so we have Queen of Bows here with the hair. So this is Queen of Wands coming up for y'all. I'm so obsessed with this, the Seven of Swords. Remember how this is like self-sabotage, thief in the middle of the day, looking at the aspects of you that are, you may not like so much or might be less than desirable. Queen of Wands is the Queen of Confidence. See where we're going with this? Queen of Confidence. And so she isn't affected, right, by her insecurities or her shadow energy or her past hurt of fear, pain, abandonment, whatever that is, right? When she looks in the mirror, she loves what she sees because she accepts what she sees. Why I'm really obsessed that this is even represented by the hair is because rabbits for me in general represent shadow and light and a choice between the two. Here's how. So the shadow side of rabbit energy is straight fear, right? Because rabbits can be very fearful animals and they're very vocal when they're afraid. Like, have you ever heard a really terrified rabbit? I mean, I hope not, but I was raised with rabbits. So I definitely know that sound, and it's awful. It sounds like nothing else. And so part of the, story behind rabbit is that it spends so much time telling all of its friends about how one day the eagle is going to find it and swoop down and kill it, that one day the eagle hears it going on about how it's going to happen, and then it actually ends up finding its exact location, and it ends up happening. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the shadow aspect of, rabbit energy is self-fulfilling prophecy. The light energy of rabbit, right, is fertility and manifestation and abundance. So much abundance that you barely even to the point where you can, donate from a place of unabashed worry, where you're just like, wow, I have so much and I'm so grateful. And this isn't just monetary, by the way, because when you feel like you are abundant in your relationships, abundant in your self-worth, abundant is a feeling, right? Not just material. Then you're in a place where you want to give back, give to others, be there for others because your cup is so full, right? That's the light side of rabbit energy. I love that this is coming up with Seven of Swords. This is a choice, right? But again, when the crow comes up, you are going to feel like there's a lot of signs pointing you towards this road and going, hey, you can either go this way or that way, but either way, this is the road that your soul wants to be on from a very deep level. And it's kind of like a choose your own adventure game, right? Where it's like, hey, you choose the next step here. We're going to come up. Oh, wow, divine timing. We're going to come up and give you an option. And there's no wrong option, but there is an option from fear, and there's an option from love, and there's an option from coloring inside the lines and then daring to color outside of the lines and do things a bit differently. Very cool. Okay, let's get an oracle from a Capricorn. Whoop. Oh my god. Wow, I feel like these are both. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Ancestors. What was I saying with the polar bear and ancestors and parents and learn lessons? Are you serious though? This is exactly what I was saying. Looking back at what you've been taught, what you've come to believe, whether by your own design or things that you learned by observing your parents or your family or, people close to you, right? Really going, what stays, what goes? What is benefiting me and what is maybe holding me back, right? Well, I watched my dad work himself down to the bone until he got sick and then couldn't work anymore. And as a result, I feel like if I'm not working myself down to the bone every single day, then I'm not worthy, that I'm lazy. For an example, right? This is an inherited belief, right? This is an example of when this key comes up and it's like, I'm going to be able to, truth, right? This mirror image again, right? It's mirroring the two vessels here, right? I'm going to look at myself. I'm going to see the truth of the shadow aspect of me and the light aspect. I am going to be brave and pull forward to the surface. And this is hard work. I'm not going to lie. This is not a walk in the park with George on a Sunday kind of work, but this is the kind of work that leads you to completely removing any obstacles from manifesting. That's it. Because again, it's not about why you don't have what you want. It's about what's keeping you from having what you want. What inside of you is keeping you from having what you want. You are getting very clear on that this year, breaking through it and manifesting on a whole other level. And it's really, really beautiful. Yay, Capricorn, I'm so obsessed with this for you. 1 year of the crow. I absolutely love this for you. With that being said, That's all there is to say. I'm wishing you a most blessed and happy and joyous one. And just thank you so much for being here. Very happy birthday season to y'all. And as always, thank you for being you, and be well. Until next time.